Hello and welcome to fresponse.com. Today we're going to talk about the classic versions of fresponse: Enterprise, Consultant Plus Covert, and Consultant Edition. First thing we're going to focus our energy on is the fresponse License Manager. License Manager is how we interact with the fresponse license dongle. It's also how remote systems that we have fresponse running on authenticate. So you can see we've got some username and password values, and of course those are something you would designate, as well as the ability to start and stop this service. It's all going to run on our examiner machine. And when I press OK, it's going to drop into the system tray and kind of disappear. More details on that in the manual and on our mission guides. The rest of our time is going to be spent in the fresponse management console. You can see this console is broken into three sections: data sources, items, and activity, with messages along the bottom. Under data sources, you'll see fresponse gives you the ability to collect data from a number of different data sources, from remote systems, under subjects, to things like agentless connections, where we would collect data from SMB and SFTP shares. Think NAS devices, maybe certain Mac hardware. Cloud servers is all about giving you the ability to talk to a cloud provider using those credentials and create snapshots of running systems or of volumes to download. And then, of course, cloud files, which is, again, talking to a cloud provider and collecting file and folder content using a provided credential. So you can see we cover a lot of different bases here. We'll touch on these again at the end of the demo. So we're going to turn all of our attention to fresponse subjects, and specifically, we're going to create an individual item. We're going to get fresponse running on a remote machine, and then we're going to have an activity that will show an attached device. So in order to get fresponse running on a remote machine, we need to deploy the software over the network. The deployment settings are pretty straightforward. These are the sort of service description, executable name, the port we're going to bind to, and then lastly, the IP address and port of the remote, or of the license manager, right? When we start fresponse on a remote machine, it's going to want to check into that license manager. So we need to make sure that we have that port and IP accessible and open here on our local machine. Deploying the software, we have a number of different options. We could run a graphical subject executable on the remote machine. We could export a Microsoft software installer, an MSI, get it on a remote machine through some other third-party tool, or we could deploy the software over the network using the fresponse management console. That makes for the best presentation, so that's what we're going to go ahead and do today. Deploying the subject over the network is all about putting in SMB or SFTP credentials and pushing the software out to the remote system. You can see we've already got some domain credentials inputted. If you were using the product today, you would put in your own credentials, of course, username, domain, and password, and add them in. Or you could run as the current user, which would allow the application to attempt to deploy the software as you currently running on the local machine. Here we can also deploy to non-Windows systems, so we would put in a user account and assume root privileges accordingly, or a root account directly. Deployment to non-Windows systems is done over SSH SFTP. Deployment to Windows systems is done with SMB or file and network printer sharing services. I haven't made any changes, so we're going to focus all of our attention here on putting in the remote subject that we want to deploy the software to. We're going to put in the host name, and then we're going to hit install and start. That's going to take us through a couple of steps. It's going to resolve that name. It's going to authenticate, create a share, copy an executable, register that executable as a service, start the service, and once the service starts, of course, it'll start talking to our license manager, and then it'll appear in the display. It took me longer to say all that than it took for it to actually happen. And here you can see, under data sources, subjects windows, we have one machine talking to our license manager. We got a couple of different options here. With classic fresponse, we're all about either attaching or imaging. Attaching a subject target is just like it sounds. It's taking a remote disk and making it a local disk on our local machine. Imaging a subject target is creating an E01 or expert witness style image. We're going to go ahead and right click and say attach a drive, and we're going to pick from a number of options. Since this is a remote Windows machine, we do have physical memory, physical volumes, and physical disks. We're going to go ahead and select a physical disk and attach it to our machine. Down below, you can see the Messages tab filling with information, and up in Activity, you can see that we now have disk 0 and a newly assigned physical drive 2. So essentially, this means that the remote machine's physical or disk 0 is now connected to our machine as physical drive 2, completely read-only. If you want, you could go and create an image either of the newly attached disk or of the target itself directly without attaching the drive. In both cases, you're going to end up with an E01 or expert witness style image that you can turn around and use in your favorite forensic and e-discovery products. We're going to skip making the image today, and then we're going to turn our attention to the last part of the presentation, which is talking about these disparate data sources. We do give you the ability to collect data from remote SMB and SFTP shares, so NAS and things like Apple machines, right? Then under cloud servers, we have the ability to snapshot those remote running cloud systems. You would have to put in some credentials, either with Amazon or Azure or Google Compute. Once you've put in those credentials, like you see here, we would authenticate, talk to the provider, and then figure out what we were able to present to you. Remember, this is all happening on your local machine, and nothing is running through FResponse, right? Nothing is running through our servers or our cloud. We don't have one. All right, so under cloud files, we essentially give you the ability to look at or to collect cloud file data. Again, double-clicking on an individual provider gives you details around what kind of credentialing we need. There's additional information on our website all about how to set up those credentials for each provider under specific mission guides. Removing the FResponse software from the remote machine is pretty simple. We'll go ahead and select right-click and detach the drive. That's going to make it go away. You'll see some details appear in the messages panel, and then we're going to right-click and stop and remove the subject software. That's going to take us back to where we were before we started. Don't forget, all of this is on our website at www.f-response.com, where you'll find manuals, mission guides, and more details. Thanks, and have a great day.